Musta, my Mondinesen family? I hope you are safe and healthy and all secure. My name is Pastor Jojo, your gung-ho partner. Sa mga panahon pinagdadaanan natin, marami pong mga katanungan ng maraming tao. Questions that are not necessarily met with easy answers. Because the times that we are going through right now are truly unprecedented. Wala pa hong naka-experience ng ganito sa mga nagdaang mga panahon. But one question remains the same in all these ages that have passed and even our present times. And this is my question to you. Who is Jesus to you? Sino nga ba ang Panginoon sa mga panahong to? Paano ang pagkakilala mo sa Panginoong ating sinasamba? And maybe if you are like me, I will always default to the more positive, more triumphant definitions of the personhood of Jesus Christ. And rightly so. Why? Because he is our Prince of Peace. He's the Lion of Judah. He's our great physician. He's the hope of our glory. Yes, he is our Alpha and Omega. Many more like these, you can find it in the Bible. But there's another part, another angle ng pagkatao ng ating Panginoon, ng personhood ng ating Panginoon, na hindi familiar or hindi popular sa nakakarami. At yun yung kanyang pagiging man of sorrows as described in Isaiah 53. How he was a person who was despised and rejected by men, and he was familiar with the many griefs. People that are very much morose in nature, yung parang bit-bit nila yung kabigatan ng mundo, these are not necessarily the people na gusto mong maging BFF, ano po. Dahil normal lang po yun, ang gusto nating makasama sa buhay ang mga taong masayahin, life of the party, yung patatawanin ka, yung sasakit ang tiyan mo sa kakatawa. At kailangan nating tumawa sa mga panahong pinagdadaanan natin. But when we realize that Jesus is also a man familiar with sorrows, for me, it's a great word of comfort because kung ano man ang bigat, kung ano man ang burden na nasa puso't balikat mo ngayon, makasisiguro tayo at makatitiyak tayo na naiintindihan tayo ng Panginoon because He was familiar with it. The dictionary defines pain as a basic bodily sensation. It's induced by noxious stimulus. It is received by naked nerve endings. It is characterized by physical discomfort or acute mental or emotional distress. Now, by the definition alone ni Webster, talagang lalong ma-reinforce yung proclivity, yung propensity ng tao na ayaw natin ng pain. And we will do everything in our power either to deny pain or to avoid pain altogether. Sino nga naman ang gustong masaktan? But one reality of life is that pain is inevitable. Sa bawat sulok ng ating human existence, we will have, for one moment or another, we will have an encounter with pain. And if we don't have a deep theology of pain, if we don't have a good understanding, a healthy consideration of what pain is and what benefits it can give us, we might end up resenting every time life turns out painful, or if we took a painful turn in our human existence. Jesus now, or in Hebrews, it now records Jesus, that in him we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, and yet was without sin. Jesus is our representative before the throne room of our Father in heaven. And the beautiful thing is because he's a man of sorrows, he can also sympathize with us. And maybe that's one great need that we have right now. To know and to feel that somebody understands us, somebody feels our pain, na merong nakakaintindi sa mga pinagdadaanan natin. And the Lord is that person because he has experienced all forms of pain and all forms of temptations and all forms of burdens in our hearts, in his heart, and yet he has not sinned one single way. And because of that, he can represent us and he can intercede for us. In one account in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 26, Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." So he took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, And he began to be sorrowful and troubled. And then he said to them, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. I have been to Jerusalem and I have been to the Garden of Gethsemane. And I realized the Hebrew term for Gethsemane is Gethsemanim, which is practically translated as olive press. Alam niyo yung olive na kinukuha natin ng olive oil? Meron silang Gethsemanim, yung talagang pipigain yung olive para lang po makuha yung oil na yun. And in that place called Gethsemanim, Jesus was being pressed. Ang kanyang words is that, sabi niya, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Alam niya ang kanyang kalbaryong pagdadaanan to bear the sins of the world. And one request he made to Peter and James and John. Stay here and keep watch with me. Samahan niyo lang ako. And we all need that, mga kapatid na po. We all need that person na pag meron tayong pinagdadaan ng kadiliman sa buhay natin, that somebody is going to be there just to sit beside us, to hold our hands, or just to listen unto us. But one pain that Jesus experienced is that when he went a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and he started praying, Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will. Nagre-request ang anak ng Diyos sa kanyang ama. Kung posibleng hindi niya na kailangan pagdaanan ng kalbaryo na siya ang magiging tagasalo sa lahat ng kasalanan ng mundo. But he ended it with a prayer that says, hindi ko po kalooban ang masusunod, kundi kalooban po niyo. And one pain that he experienced was the pain of aloneness. And you have experienced, we have all experienced this one point or another sa buhay natin. Because when he returned to his disciples, he found them sleeping. Yung mga disipulong kanyang kinausap na pwede bang samahan niyo lang ako, just keep watch with me. Aba yun, naghihilik na just few minutes after. So Jesus even had this tampo, yung rebuke niya, sabi niya, could you men not keep watch with me for 1 hour? It was a question that was directed to Peter himself. And maybe you can relate with this. Na may mga panahon, lalo itong work from home tayo, lalo naka-quarantine tayo, MECQ, naging GCQ, binalik uli sa MECQ. Kailan ba matatapos? Kailan ba natin makikita ang mga kaibigan natin in whose presence we felt so alive? We all feel this burden, mga kapatid. Butin lang, sabi sa Psalm 121, when we lift our eyes to the hills and we ask, where does our help come from? Our help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. And he will not let your foot slip, because he who watches over you will not slumber. He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. Isang consolation na hindi nakakatulog at hindi tayo iiwanan ng Diyos sa gitna ng ating mga problema. Second pain of Jesus was the pain of seemingly unanswered prayers. Why? Because when he left them and he went away once more, he prayed the third time saying the same thing. Ano yung same thing na yun? Yung kanyang pakiusap na kung pwede lamang, Panginoon, huwag niyo na akong pagdaanin sa kalbaryo na ito. But he returned to the disciples and he said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? Naghihilig pa rin talaga. And Jesus says, look, the hour is near and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise and let us go, for here comes my betrayer. For 3 times the Lord asked kung pwede may spare siya from the cup of suffering. But after the 3rd time of prayer, Judas still arrived, along with the army and the soldiers of Caiaphas. And that was the start of the Via Dolorosa, the way of pain. Jesus asked, and the Father seemed to have said, no, he would not spare his son from the pain of Calvary. And maybe you have felt that pain too. Ilang prayers na ba ang ating idinasal? And yet that loved one still went through the COVID. Or maybe that loved one still passed on at tayo'y kasalukuyang nagluluksa. When we have so many prayers that we spoke in faith, and yet it seemed to have bounced off the ceiling of our rooms, we feel the pain of seemingly unanswered prayers. Does the Lord understand that? And the answer is yes. The pain of physical afflictions. Alam natin nung nangyari in what we now call the Good Friday, how the Lord took our infirmities and carried our sorrows, how he was stricken by God, smitten by him and afflicted, how he was pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities, and he was punished just so we can have the peace And that's why we can say by his wounds we are healed. Jesus suffered pain. If you are now currently in pain and you ask the question, does God even understand me? And in Jesus, the answer is yes. And lastly is the pain of abandonment. Because when Jesus was already hanging on the cross about the 9th hour or 3 o'clock in present times, Jesus cried out and he said, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which we now know as, my God, why have you forsaken me? And that particular moment when God the Father had to lay on Jesus all the sins of the world, all the filth of humanity, God for a moment turned his back on his son so that in Jesus, the pain of humanity would be punished. Jesus felt all forsaken, all abandoned, also forgotten. Does Jesus understand when sometimes even the closest of kin of ours, they also abandon us? And the answer is yes. So in Jesus, my friends, no one stays closer to you than Jesus Christ. No one heals deeper your wounded soul deeper than Jesus Christ. No one comforts better than Jesus Christ. No one sees the benefits of our pains clearer than Jesus Christ. Why? Because once again, Hebrews would remind us that we have a great high priest in him who has gone through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. So in him, we can hold firmly to the faith that we profess. And our reading today, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way just as we are, yet was without sin. Anong benefit sa atin? We can then approach the throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Mga kapatid, our ending question that you might want to ask yourself is, what are your current struggles that you want our intercessions for? These Mon devotions have been crafted by our HR people so that we can have our friends to intercede and to pray for us. Please type down your prayer requests. But my greater question for you, Mondays and families, how can you, yes, you, how can you represent Jesus this week? Nagsimula na po ang ating linggo, especially to those who are hurting and broken. Maybe you can mull over this question and remember what Christ has done for you. These are extraordinary times. No generation before us has ever been through what we are currently going through. But I pray that we see beyond the pain that we are experiencing. I pray that we see the sovereign hands of God holding us. And I pray that our eyes of faith will be open and see the greater purposes of God when pains or painful experiences are allowed for his children to go through. I pray that we can have a discerning heart so that we can take full embrace of the lessons that these painful moments are giving us. These are too painful to be wasted. Di po ba? Sobrang hapde. We have lost so many. We have experienced economic downturns. We have experienced business upheavals. Thank God for Mondenizen that our jobs are secure. Your pays are secure. But we cannot speak the same to the rest of the nation. But just the same, we have felt the ignominy of being in the deepest valleys. Tinahak na natin ang napakalalalim, napakadidilim na malambak ng pagtangis. Tinahak na natin ang napakabibigat ng mga cross sa ating mga balikat. The Lord doesn't want you to go through this alone. You have your Monde family, but most of all, we have Jesus Christ, our great high priest, who looks at us with grace and mercies, who looks at us with sympathies, and who looks at us with a readiness to extend his hand of glory to help us in our times of need. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you, and may the Lord be gracious unto you. Yes, may the Lord lift up his countenance towards you, my friend, and may the Lord grant you his peace. Blessed week, mga kapatid. Keep safe and keep healthy at all times.